We're all chasing that smarter way to operate, aren't we? Trying to trim costs, get things moving faster, and, well, keep the customers happy.
Definitely.
Today, we're taking a deep dive into something called centralized warehousing. Our sources suggest it might be a really effective way for many businesses to hit those goals.
Absolutely. We've gone through some pretty compelling material on this. It really breaks down how pulling your warehousing together can be a strong lever for, well, better efficiency and performance overall.
Think of this as a shortcut, maybe.
Exactly. A fast track to grasp the basic idea and what it could mean for a business.
Okay, so let's paint a picture. When we say centralized warehousing, what are we actually talking about? What does it look like on the ground?
Right. So imagine taking all your stock, your inventory, and basically the whole process of getting it out the door, packing, shipping, everything, and bringing it into one main facility.
Or maybe just a couple.
Or maybe a couple of key hubs, yeah. Chosen very strategically for their location. So instead of warehouses dotted all over the place, you're really focusing your operations geographically.
Gotcha. And the flip side is that more spread out model, the decentralized one, with warehouses maybe closer to different customer regions.
That's the one.
So what are the immediate kind of pros and cons someone would weigh up between those two?
Well, with the decentralized model, the big appeal is often, potentially faster delivery for local customers. Seems
Correct.
logical, right?
Yeah, closer is faster.
But that often comes with significantly higher costs. You're talking more buildings, more rent, more utilities. Plus, managing inventory across multiple sites gets complex.
And more staff needed, presumably.
And more staff, definitely. Centralization, on the other hand, aims to streamline all that. Cut down complexity, lower those operational costs.
But the trade-off might be
The potential downside, or the thing you need to manage, is potentially longer shipping distances for some customers. Unless, and this is key, you have a really efficient, really well-oiled logistics machine backing it up.
okay, let's dig into those cost savings you mentioned.
Yeah.
How exactly does bringing everything under one roof or fewer roofs actually cut expenses?
There are a few big ways. First off, real estate. That's pretty straightforward. Fewer places mean less rent, lower energy bills, less maintenance. It adds up.
Makes sense.
Then you've got labor. A single larger facility often means you can run things with a leaner overall team compared to staffing multiple smaller sites. Plus, planning shifts and deploying people becomes much more straightforward.
Easier to manage.
Right. And maybe the biggest hitter is economies of scale. When you're buying supplies, packaging materials, whatever, for one central place, you buy in bigger volumes.
Bulk buying.
Exactly. Like going to a warehouse club instead of the corner store.
Yeah.
You consolidate your purchasing, you consolidate your outbound shipping into larger loads, and generally your cost per item, per unit cost drops.
Fewer sites, potentially fewer staff overall, and buying bigger.
Got it. You also touched on making the workforce itself more efficient. How does centralization help there?
Yeah, it's not just about numbers. When your team's all in one place, it's just, well, easier to move people around to where the demand is highest at any given moment. You get more flexibility.
Respond to peaks and troughs better.
Precisely. And it makes things like cross-training much more feasible. You can train people to handle different jobs within the warehouse, making your workforce more versatile. Plus, a centralized setup is often much more conducive to implementing automation, standardized procedures, workflows that are the same for everyone.
And that leads to fewer mistakes.
Fewer human errors, definitely.
Yeah.
And generally, a higher throughput, getting more stuff processed and out the door accurately. So it's more than just headcount. It's about smarter systems, better training, maximizing the output of the team you have. Okay, let's shift gears to speed. How does having it all in one location actually make things faster? It seems counterintuitive if the final delivery distance is longer for some.
Yeah, it does seem that way at first. But think about managing your inventory. With one central pool of stock and one system tracking it, things get much simpler.
Easier to see what you have.
Much easier. Your visibility is better, tracking is simpler, and that means your forecasting, predicting what you'll need, becomes more accurate too. And consider customer orders. If someone orders, say, 3 different items, in a decentralized system, those items might be in different warehouses. Complicated. In a centralized one, they're all picked, packed, and shipped together from the same place.
One box, one shipment.
Right, that simplifies things massively. It streamlines the whole order fulfillment cycle. So even if the final truck journey is a bit longer for some people, the overall time from click to doorstep can actually be faster for many because the processing is so much quicker and smoother.
And tracking is easier too, I guess, one tracking number.
Much easier. Plus, that central view helps you spot bottlenecks in the process much faster and fix them.
Okay, so that speed, that efficiency,
Yeah.
it must lead to happier customers, right? How does centralizing directly boost customer service?
The big word here is consistency. When you standardize processes in one place, you tend to get much more predictable delivery times. Customers like knowing what to expect.
Builds trust.
Exactly, it builds trust. And remember the inventory accuracy we mentioned. A centralized, real-time view means fewer mistakes. Fewer, oops, actually that's out of stock, moments after they've ordered.
Right, fewer back orders, fewer incorrect items shipped.
Precisely. Getting the right product on time, consistently, that's huge for the customer experience.
Okay, this is sounding pretty compelling. Are there specific types of businesses, certain industries, where this model tends to offer the biggest wins?
Yeah, the sources we looked at definitely point to a few key areas. Retail, especially e-commerce retail, comes up a lot.
Makes sense with all those individual customer orders.
Right. Manufacturing is another big one. Streamlining how finished goods get out to distributors or customers. And electronics, that's interesting too.
Why electronics specifically?
Well, think about products where value can decrease quickly, like consumer electronics, or where you have lots of different components. Tight inventory control from a central point becomes really critical there to minimize waste and manage obsolescence. The common thread is often relatively predictable demand patterns and needing really good control over stock.
That makes a lot of sense. But, putting all your eggs in one basket, doesn't that create some risks? What are the potential downsides we need to consider?
That's a really important counterpoint. And yes, there are definitely risks. One clear one is potentially higher shipping costs for customers who happen to live far from your central hub. That last mile cost can increase
Okay, so geography matters a lot in site selection.
hugely. And the other major risk is that single point of failure idea. If your one main facility gets hit by something major, a big storm, a fire, serious equipment failure, even a labor strike.
Your whole operation could grind to a halt.
Exactly. A disruption at that central hub can have a massive ripple effect across your entire supply chain. That's a significant vulnerability you have to plan for.
Okay, so we see the potential problems. If a business is leaning towards centralization, how can they actually minimize those risks? What are the smart strategies?
Careful planning is absolutely essential. It starts with choosing that location, as you said. It needs to be genuinely central, not just geographically, but in terms of transport links.
Near highways, airports, maybe rail?
All of the above. Good access to major transportation networks is critical to keep those shipping times and costs manageable. Secondly, you absolutely need robust contingency plans.
Like what?
Things like having solid backup power systems, investing in redundant critical equipment, maybe diversifying your shipping carriers so you're not reliant on just one company if they have issues.
Or even a small backup site.
Some companies might even consider a smaller secondary hot site for essential functions. Yeah, it's about building resilience into that centralized model.
Right. So if a company weighs it all up and decides, okay, centralized is the way forward for us, what does that transition actually look like? It sounds like a huge project.
It is a major undertaking, no doubt.
Yep.
And the materials we reviewed suggest a pretty logical sequence. First, you absolutely must do a detailed cost-benefit analysis. Really crunch the number.
Make sure it makes financial sense.
Make sure it pencils out, exactly. Then, the crucial step of picking that optimal location we just discussed. After that, it's all about people and process. Comprehensive staff training on the new ways of working in a centralized system. That's vital. You usually want to migrate your inventory in phases, not all at once, to avoid massive disruption to your current operations.
Staged rollout.
Staged rollout, yeah. And finally, you need to invest properly in the warehouse itself, the layout, the technology, making sure it's scalable for the future, WMS systems, maybe automation.
So it's a very deliberate, strategic process, not flicking a switch overnight.
Definitely not. It requires careful planning and execution.
Okay, so as we kind of pull this together, what's the main message? Is centralized warehousing the answer everyone should be looking at?
No, not at all. I think the clearest takeaway is that it's absolutely not a one-size-fits-all magic bullet. It offers compelling benefits, sure, but businesses really need to look hard at their specific situation.
Especially those with, say, very unpredictable demand in different regions.
Exactly. Or businesses where hyper-local, super-fast delivery is the absolute top priority. For them, a decentralized model might still make more sense. You have to weigh the pros and cons, the cost savings versus shipping times, the efficiency versus the single point of failure risk against your own needs, and what your customers expect.
So to sum it up, centralization can bring real cost savings, real estate, labor, buying power. It can boost efficiency with smoother processes, better tech integration, a more flexible team. And that often leads to better customer service through consistency and accuracy.
That's a good summary.
But there are challenges to those shipping costs to far-flung customers, the risk tied to that single hub. But careful planning, smart location choice, and solid backup plans can definitely help manage those downsides.
Precisely. It's about making an informed choice based on your unique context.
Right. Okay, here's a final thought to leave everyone with. We've spent this time talking about consolidating physical operations, bringing warehouses together. But maybe think about this. Could those core principles, streamlining, consolidating, seeking efficiency through centralization, apply elsewhere in your work or your business?
Interesting angle.
Yeah, maybe in areas that aren't about physical boxes, like how project teams are structured perhaps, or how you manage data. Could bringing things together, simplifying, yield similar benefits in less tangible parts of the operation? Something to chew on perhaps? Where else could consolidation bring unexpected gains?